He was just a mechanic. No badge, no clearance, just grease on his hands, and a past he tried to forget. But when a broken wheelchair rolled into his garage, it triggered a chain of secrets buried for over a decade. Now, a general once believed dead is back, and one question remains. Who left that note under his wrench? Welcome to TNM Incredible Story. Let's uncover what really happened. In a forgotten corner of Arizona, there lived a man who asked nothing from the world and expected even less in return. His name was Logan Carter, a mechanic, and a ghost of the military he once served. He didn't talk much. He didn't smile often. He simply fixed what was broken and stayed out of everyone's way. On an ordinary morning, as desert winds blew dust through the alleyways, Logan was hunched over a worn-out carburetor, his fingers black with grease, his thoughts drifting somewhere far from the noise of life. That's when he heard it, a squeaking sound, uneven, struggling. Then came the knock. Tap, tap, pause, tap. Logan opened the rusted metal door. A boy, no older than 10, stood there pushing a broken wheelchair. One wheel hung crooked. The woman sitting in the chair looked pale, tired, but proud. The boy said, "Excuse me, sir, my mom's chair is broken. She needs to get to the clinic today, but we don't have any money." Logan looked down at the boy, then at the bent wheel. He didn't speak. He just stepped aside and said, "Bring it in." The garage smelled of oil and rust. A single bulb swung overhead, casting long shadows across scattered tools. Logan knelt beside the chair, inspecting the damage with the calm of a man who'd seen far worse than this. The axle was warped. Bearings almost turned to dust. One spoke had snapped clean off. He didn't ask questions. He didn't complain. He simply got to work. He scrubbed the rust, realigned the wheel, replaced the spoke. From a tin can labeled "Spares, Hopeful Cases," he packed the bearing with grease, tightened the bolts, checked the balance, adjusted the brakes. 42 minutes passed in silence. The boy watched wide-eyed. His mother said nothing, but her eyes said everything. When it was done, Logan wiped the grime from his hands and rolled the chair forward. "Try it," he said. The boy pushed gently. The chair moved smoothly. No squeaks, no strain. "How much, sir?" he asked. Logan looked at him for a long second, then said quietly, "Pay me when you learn how to fix it yourself." The next morning, Logan was let go from his temp job at the repair shop, using company time for work that doesn't pay. The manager said. Logan didn't argue. He just nodded and walked away. But that afternoon, as he returned to his own garage, he found something strange. Beneath his wrench was a folded piece of paper. Old, faded. It wasn't there before. He opened it. A string of numbers, letters, military code, and scribbled beneath it were 4 words. "This will lead you home." Logan stared at it, not moving, not breathing, because he recognized the signature. T.M. and T.M. was supposed to be dead that night. Logan Carter didn't sleep. The shop was dark. The only light came from a flickering bulb above his workbench, where the torn paper lay like a silent dare. It wasn't random. He knew that. The numbers, the structure, it was military encryption, field level, high security. At the bottom of the note, 2 simple letters, TM, and Logan's chest tightened, because those weren't just initials. They belonged to a man who once led him through the desert, a man who was more than just command. General Thomas Monroe. Officially, Monroe was killed during a Black Ops mission in Syria. No body, no burial, just a headline and silence. Logan still remembered what Monroe once whispered during a quiet night in Iraq. "If I disappear, it won't be by accident. Don't trust the obituary. Watch the shadows." And now, the shadows were knocking. The next morning, Logan drove to a place he hadn't visited in years. A dusty veterans center tucked between 2 gas stations. Inside, hunched over an old terminal, was Jules Mendoza, retired cyber ops specialist, now disguised as a part-time librarian. Logan slid the paper across the desk. Jules barely glanced at it before his fingers flew over the keys. "Where'd you get this?" Jules asked. Logan didn't answer. A few seconds later, the screen flashed red. "Access restricted, level Omega." "You just poked the hornet's nest," Jules muttered. This thing is pinging classified servers in real time. Logan leaned in. What's it say? Jules read aloud. NEV.37.41.12. Access.dplock. Vermilion.code.red. Logan frowned. Coordinates. Jules nodded. Buried in Nevada. Something big. Then Logan's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. There was no voice at first. Just static. Then, a deep, measured whisper. You shouldn't have opened that. The line went dead. Logan returned to the garage. A storm was building, not in the sky, but in his gut. And that's when he saw it. A black sedan parked across the road. Tinted windows. Engine off. Watching. Minutes later, a man stepped out. Mid-40s. Crew cut. Black coat over desert camo. No name. No rank. You're Logan Carter, he said. His voice was calm, too calm. Who's asking? Call me Duran, the man replied. That paper you found. It was never meant for you. Duran stepped closer. The woman you helped, she's not who you think. And the boy isn't her son. Logan's eyes narrowed. You're being watched. You're already flagged. But it's not too late to walk away. He pulled a small card from his coat. Go to this location. Alone. You want answers? They're waiting. As Duran walked back toward the car, Logan called out, You gonna tell me who she really is? Duran paused, then said quietly, Monroe's wife. The sedan pulled away, dust rising behind it like smoke, and Logan Carter stood in the middle of that dirt road, realigning everything he thought he knew. The road to nowhere began at mile marker 76. Logan followed it into the desert. Beyond the maps, beyond the reach of cell towers, beyond anything that made sense. The address Duran gave him led to a half-buried radio tower and a locked fence, with no sign, no guards, and no reason to exist. Just dust and silence. A single red light blinked under the tower. Hidden infrared. Military tech. Logan stepped into its beam. A voice, cold and mechanical, came from a hidden speaker. Logan Carter. Authorization. Verbal. He hesitated, then whispered. Vermilion. Code red. The ground rumbled. And then, the sand split open. A concrete staircase appeared, leading downward into the dark. Logan took a breath and descended. The air inside was sharp, sterile, lit by humming fluorescence that buzzed overhead, like insects trapped in glass. He passed empty hallways. No signs, no guards, just the weight of secrets. At the end, a steel door slid open on its own. Inside stood a man Logan thought he'd left behind in another life. Jules Mendoza. Not behind a desk, not in a dusty library, but here, in full tactical gear, standing before a wall of glowing screens. You made it, Jules said, almost smiling. What is this place? Logan asked. Phoenix Facility 12, Jules replied. Built off the books by Monroe himself. Back when he realized what Helix really was. The screens lit up. Military files. Classified briefings. Photos of war zones that never made the news. Helix isn't just a black ops unit, Jules explained. They've staged false flag missions for years. Fabricated threats. Used fear to justify private wars. Logan leaned in, stunned. And Monroe tried to expose them? Yes, that's why they buried him. Then Jules pulled up an image. A still frame from a security cam. A child stood beside Monroe. 15 years ago. That's the boy from the garage, Jules said. Logan blinked. Can't be. That boy was 10. This photo's over a decade old. Jules looked him dead in the eyes. He hasn't aged. Silence. Then Jules spoke softly. The boy isn't real, Logan. He's phase 2 of the Helix project. A synthetic infiltration agent, designed to mimic innocence and test morality in target individuals. Logan stepped back. You're telling me they sent him to test me? No, Jules replied. They sent him to activate you. Tasha wasn't who she claimed to be. The chair, the broken wheel, the timing. It wasn't coincidence. It was the beginning of a field protocol called Project Recoil. Logan stared at the screen. Confusion, betrayal, and something else rising beneath it all. Purpose. For years, he'd been hiding from the war. But now, the war had come looking for him. Jules handed him a flash drive. This has everything. Monroe's files. Their ops. Names. Locations. Enough to burn Helix to the ground. Logan stared at it. Why me? Jules said nothing for a moment. then answered, "Because he trusted you more than any of us." Logan didn't go home that night. He didn't go anywhere familiar. He drove west. Off the grid, off the roads, and off the radar. The flash drive Jules gave him was hidden under the floorboard, next to an old flare gun, and a combat knife he hadn't touched in 12 years. The knife Monroe once handed him in the desert, saying, "In case the bullets stop listening." But bullets weren't the problem now. People were. It happened just before sunset. A white SUV came out of nowhere, slamming into his truck on an empty road near Yuma. Tires screeched. Metal twisted. Logan's head snapped sideways as the truck flipped into a ditch. Dust. Blood. Silence. When the door ripped open, 4 men in tactical black dragged him out. No words. No mercy. One jabbed a needle into his neck. Cold fire surged through his veins. And then, darkness. He woke in a concrete cell. No windows. A blinking red camera above his head. His arms were zip-tied to a chair bolted to the floor. The pain in his ribs told him they'd kicked him first. And asked questions never. Then the door opened. A man walked in. Older. Calm. Cold. Silver hair. Black gloves. A smile that never reached his eyes. "Mr. Carter," he said, "I'm not here to ask where the data is. We already know you passed it to the librarian." He pulled a chair. Sat down slowly. "I'm here to offer you a deal." Logan didn't speak. The man lit a cigarette. Let the silence sink in. "You walk away now. You get your garage back. A clean file. A pension. A life." He leaned in. "All you have to do is forget Monroe ever existed." Logan looked up, blood on his lip, rage in his eyes. Then he said, low and steady, "You've already lost." And at that moment, the far wall exploded. A shockwave of dust and debris filled the cell. Gunfire roared. Chaos. Through the smoke, a figure emerged. Tactical gear, rifle raised. "Jules. Down. Now," he shouted. "Logan, move." 2 more Phoenix operatives entered behind him, clearing the room in under 20 seconds. Logan was cut free. "I thought you were a librarian," he said, coughing. Jules grinned. "I moonlight in exfiltration." They raced down the corridor, back through the breach, into a black van waiting in the sand. Inside, Logan found 2 men. One he recognized from Afghanistan. The other wore the Phoenix Initiative patch. "Where are we going?" Logan asked, breath still ragged. Jules handed him an earpiece. "To someone who's been waiting for you." "Who?" The van sped into the night. Then, a voice came through the earpiece. Soft, clear, familiar. "Logan." His heart stopped. It was Tasha. But this time, she didn't sound like someone asking for help. The safe house sat beneath a crumbling observatory in the Sierra Nevada. From the outside, abandoned. Forgotten. From the inside, alive with secrets. Logan followed Jules through a narrow metal stairwell, deeper than the desert ever wanted men to go. At the bottom, a war room glowed with red lights, satellite feeds, and the weight of a mission 10 years in the making. And in the center stood Tasha, not in a wheelchair, not in worn clothes, but in full command uniform, Phoenix Division. "You lied," Logan said, "about everything." She didn't flinch. "We had to. You were our last chance." She gestured to a screen. It flickered on. And there, grainy live, was General Thomas Monroe. Alive. Weathered. Speaking from a bunker deep in South America. "Logan," he said softly, "if you're seeing this, it means they failed to stop you." He looked tired, but steady. "The flash drive holds everything. False wars. Fabricated threats. Operation Helix is no longer a shadow. It's a parasite. And now, you hold the match." Tasha turned to Logan. "We built a leak pipeline. If you authorize it, the truth goes live in 72 hours. Jules added, "But once it does, you'll never be safe again. You'll be hunted. Forever." Logan stared at the console. So many years fixing engines, avoiding the past, staying quiet. And now, the whole world waited for his voice. "Why me?" he asked. Tasha stepped closer. "Because Monroe trusted you. Not for what you could destroy, but for what you might rebuild." Then it happened. A red light flashed. Intrusion detected. Gunfire echoed from above. The facility had been breached. Betrayal. One of their own. But before Logan could react, Duran appeared, bleeding, exhausted. This time, he shot the traitor. not the target. I'm not Helix anymore, he said. But you need to finish this. Logan escaped with the core drive, and within days, stood inside a hidden relay station in the jungles of Brazil. No cameras, no headlines, just birdsong and wind. He inserted the drive. The screen blinked green. Transmission deployed. Across the world, news broke. Massive military conspiracy exposed. General Monroe alive. Veteran mechanic identified as whistleblower hero. But Logan Carter never returned home. Instead, he built a new garage, not for engines, but for people, for young veterans, for lost kids with broken hands and wounded hearts. And one evening, as the sun fell behind the hills, a boy walked in with a broken bicycle chain. Logan wiped his hands, looked up, and smiled. Bring it in. He never wanted to be a hero, just a man who fixed what others left behind. She sounded like a commander.